Chapter 1. Return to silence. Anna held the steering wheel with both hands, even though the road was almost empty. The summer evening was drawing to a close, the sky was filled with amber light, and the trees along the roadside stretched upward, as if seeing her off with silent glances. She drove slowly, without haste, not because she didn't know the road, but because she knew it too well. The house she was returning to stood on the outskirts of the city. Her grandparents had once lived there. Then, emptiness. And now, after everything that had happened, it had become her only refuge from a foreign city, from the deathly silence of the apartment where everything reminded her of him. Her husband had died a year ago in a stupid accident, for which no one had ever taken responsibility. His absence still echoed in her every action, when she opened the closet and still reached for his shirt mechanically, when she made coffee and set out a second mug, then slowly put it back. She parked the car at the porch and turned off the engine. The yard was overgrown but not abandoned. One of the neighbors probably looked after it from time to time. The grass was waist-high, but in its own way it looked beautiful, as if nature wanted to protect this place from time. The house greeted her with the click of a jammed lock and a familiar smell, a mixture of wood, old books, and something elusive, as if the air here held memories. Anna put her suitcase by the door and walked through the rooms. The floor creaked just as it had when she was a child. The photographs of her parents still hung on the wall, yellowed, in wooden frames. Above the fireplace was a clock that never worked but always seemed necessary. The bedroom was cool. The window overlooked the very street where she had spent her childhood. Across the road stood a house that had seemed mysterious to her as a child. A boy once lived there. She had long forgotten his name, as one forgets a dream seen once and carried away by the morning light. She only remembered that he had black hair and eyes full of some strange calmness. He always looked out of the window and never came closer. Sometimes they exchanged glances. Sometimes he smiled. But she couldn't remember a single word he had said. Anna took the cover off the chair by the window and sat down. Directly opposite was that very window in the house across the street. It was covered with curtains. But not old, torn fabric, like in abandoned houses, but thick, fresh fabric. And, strangest of all, there was a silhouette visible at the top of the window. A figure. Male. She couldn't make out the face. The sun was already setting, and the lights were on inside. The silhouette stood motionless. It didn't move. It didn't take a step. Anna frowned. It was unlikely that anyone actually lived in that house. The locals had long said that it was empty. But the shadow was too distinct to be an illusion. She got up from her chair and slowly approached the window. The silhouette was still standing. Not moving. She stood there for a minute. Then she turned away. Tiredness, she said aloud to herself. It's just tiredness. But as she blew out the candle before going to bed, she looked out the window again. The silhouette had disappeared. The curtains were still closed. Only the light inside was no longer on. And that night, falling asleep in the cool silence of the old house, Anna felt for the first time in a long time not loneliness, but someone's presence. Not frightening, but persistent. As if someone knew she had returned. Chapter 2. Shadow on the Threshold. The next morning, Anna was awakened by the light. It was particularly bright and sharp, as is often the case in country houses, where the windows are not covered by thick curtains and the sun enters the rooms unhindered, like an old friend. She slowly got up, feeling tired not from sleep, but from the thoughts that had kept her awake all night. She remembered fragments of her dream, a rustle on the stairs, someone's silhouette in the bedroom doorway, someone whispering her name. Anna was used to loneliness. After her husband's death, it had become a familiar emptiness. But not tonight. It seemed as if the house was living its own life, watching her, sighing as if exhaling memories. She went downstairs barefoot, step by step, and each creak of the floor was like a faint echo of the past. The kitchen greeted her with the smell of dampness and herbs growing in the cracks by the window. She put the kettle on, even though she knew she wasn't ready to drink tea yet. She wanted to understand what exactly was keeping her awake. She walked to the door, opened it, and stepped out onto the porch. The morning was surprisingly quiet and peaceful. The sun played with glints on the grass. And suddenly, a click. She turned sharply. The mailbox. Its door was ajar. A letter? She walked to the gate, her heart beating too loudly for a simple morning walk. Inside the box was a folded sheet of paper, yellowed, without an envelope. There was no address or recipient's name on it. Only neat, almost childish handwriting. You feel it too, don't you? I knew you'd come back. Hey. Anna read the note several times. Hey. Who was that? Someone from the village? Someone from the past? She tried to remember. The letter gave her no clues. And yet, deep down, somewhere beneath her fear and wariness, a strange feeling arose in her. There was something familiar about it. It was as if the letter did not surprise her, but confirmed what she already knew. The whole day passed in a strange state of alertness. She washed the windows, washed the curtains, sorted through old books in the attic. Anything to keep her mind off it. But the thought of the note kept coming back. And also, the silhouette in the window. When evening fell, Anna went back to her chair by the window. The house across the street stood silent. The curtains were the same. But now she could see that one of the window panes was slightly open. And in that tiny crack, the curtain was moving. As if someone was watching. Not hiding, just watching, openly, quietly. She sat there until it was completely dark. The silhouette did not appear, but the feeling of someone watching her did not go away. And when she finally turned off the light and went upstairs, she thought she heard something click quietly behind her downstairs. A door? A floorboard? In her room, Anna locked the door. She hadn't done that in a long time. And yet, lying in bed, she felt no fear. Only the feeling that the past was rising from somewhere deep inside, and soon it would speak its first word. Chapter 3. The House That Whispers. On the third day, Anna had almost lost track of time. Morning and evening merged together, as if the house had dissolved her internal clock. She got out of bed not because she wanted to, but because at a certain moment the floor below began to creak, as if someone had walked from the kitchen to the hallway. It wasn't loud. It wasn't scary. It was inevitable. She developed a habit, a mug of coffee, an armchair by the window, and a diary in which she made notes. At first, it was just to keep her mind occupied. Then, it was to keep her from going crazy. Date, time, observations. When the curtain opposite moved, when the second note appeared on the floor by her front door. Yes, the second one. This time it was shorter. A piece of paper folded in half and pressed down with a smooth stone, as if someone didn't want it to fly away in the wind. I remember that spring. Your hair smelled like bird cherry. I was on the porch, and you were barefoot on the grass. You were laughing, remember? She didn't remember. But for some reason, her body reacted as if it did remember, a slight chill on her skin, a quiet dizziness, as if her inner spring had compressed and decompressed for a second. Anna didn't know who to expect, but she began to look out the window more often. The house across the street remained silent. Its shabby walls were covered with cobwebs of shadows from the trees. Her grandmother once said that this house doesn't like strangers, that it remembers its own. At the time, it seemed like a whim. Now it seemed almost logical. Late in the evening, she decided to take a walk. She wanted air, movement, the feeling that everything was under control. The street was empty, only a few streetlights reflected yellow light on the puddles. She walked past the neighbor's house, where lilacs once grew. Past the mailbox, past the bus stop where she had once kissed a boy at 16, whose name she had long forgotten. But now it seemed to come back to her. And when she turned around, he was standing in front of the house opposite. A vague silhouette, almost dissolved in the twilight, in the window on the second floor. Tall. Motionless. But not frightening. There was something about him that made her heart skip a beat. Like those moments when you've almost recognized a face, but it's still hidden. Anna didn't sleep that night. She sat by the window, dozing off from time to time, then waking up again. About 3 hours before dawn, she went to the mirror and saw herself truly for the first time in a long time. Not a tired woman exiled from city life, but a girl with eyes full of expectation. And when she opened her diary again, she wrote something she didn't expect from herself. I think I'm waiting. But I don't know for whom. Or, do I already know him? A ringing silence fell over the house. And somewhere beyond the walls, it seemed to Anna, someone exhaled. as if agreeing with her, as if waiting for her words, as if everything that was happening was just beginning. Chapter 4. The Shadow of Memories. The bright morning light streamed into the house through the slats of the blinds, cutting through the dusty space in thin strips. Anna woke up with the feeling that she had missed something important. It wasn't a dream. She didn't remember it. Something real, as if something had happened in the house itself while she was away. The feeling was like after a heated conversation that had been erased from her memory but left a heaviness in her chest. She was in no hurry to go downstairs. In old houses, mornings were not always easy. The wooden stairs creaked reproachfully, the air was cold, as if the night was still hiding in the corners of the rooms. The kitchen greeted her with its usual silence, but the cup she usually placed next to the coffee maker was standing in the sink. Empty. Wet. She froze. She remembered. She replayed the morning in her head, the gestures, the actions. No. She definitely hadn't poured herself coffee. And she certainly hadn't washed the cup. Someone had been here. Or was she starting to lose her boundaries again? There was a new entry in the diary. Only this time, it wasn't hers. The page had been turned, and in the center, in neat handwriting that wasn't hers, was written, "You really don't remember? I'm still here." Anna's hand gripped the edge of the table. At that moment, she realized that her fear was gone. It had given way to curiosity, an almost sweet, painful premonition that she was on the verge of something familiar. Painfully so. And at that very moment, a door creaked in the hallway. Not sharply. Carefully, as if someone didn't want to scare her. She went out into the hallway and saw that the front door was ajar. Beyond the threshold was morning, damp fog, the smell of wet earth. And right on the wooden step was a photograph. Old. Yellowed. It was her. Young, barely 16. Her hair was messy, her cheeks flushed with laughter. And next to her was him. The same guy she once loved. It was a black and white image, but she could swear his eyes were still warm. And somewhere deep inside, she understood that it was no coincidence that she had returned to this house. All this time, he had been calling her back. In the evening, when she approached the house opposite again, there was no silhouette in the window. Only an open window, behind which a curtain moved. Her gaze rose upward, and suddenly she remembered. She remembered the smell of that summer, his voice, how he called her birdie, how they stole apples and hid under the stairs from the rain. He hadn't disappeared. She had simply forgotten. The house wouldn't let her. That night, she didn't write anymore. She just sat in her chair, staring into the darkness, knowing he was nearby. Maybe in this house, maybe inside her. But now he was with her again. Outside the window, in the pitch-black silence, a light flashed for a moment and then went out. Like a star blinking. Like a farewell. Or a beginning.